Peace, family.
Hi, everybody.
My name is Lev,
I'm Ife.
and we are the Chef Sumaat family.
Mine is 2. The kids are being watched.
Yeah, they wouldn't let us do this video for nothing. But anyway, we wanted to share a little bit about our background and some of the reasons why we want to share these workshops and share some of the ancestral nutritional science that we've been studying and how we've been able to incorporate it in our culinary food creations and journey nourishing ourselves and our family.
Yeah.
You want to go first, babe?
Yeah. First of all, they're called interactive and learning experiences. ELAs for short. Call them workshops. That's okay. We're reframing it. So I feel like you should start because you kind of got into this earlier. Like you were raised with a garden, right? So you should probably go into that.
So my father always had a garden, so I grew up in Baltimore City, but we always had some veggies coming out the garden, grew herbs. My father was a landscape architect, so that was my first job, just kind of working gardens. Not all of it was for food, but when I was 12, I worked on a farm for my summers, and just got into food early on, got into connecting with my food and about connecting to nature, so harvesting wild berries. I was really into, like as a teenager, I was like into making salads. So every week for Shabbat, grew up in a Jewish family where celebrating Shabbat every week. So it was my job to make the salads, and I would make dips and spreads and sauces and things like that where, and I try to incorporate whatever was coming out of the garden. So that was like a very early experience, and really started to think about like how I could be healthy by way of connecting deeper to my food, and I was directly connected to. So as my family would tell you, I used to, and I was also really into culture. I really appreciated diverse cultures around the globe and through food. Like I really loved the flavors of different cultures, and so I would bring those into my home, and not everybody in my family was into all that. They were kind of like, ooh, that's too strong. And I would go heavy. I was really like, hardcore teenager. Like I just wanted it strong. I wanted everything strong. Spice and all that. So I've learned to mellow that down and learn to accommodate different palates and just make nourishing food with full flavors and even now I have such a joy going outside. I'm learning mushrooms right now, and I'm just harvesting tons of wild mushrooms.
Before we come to the present, let's keep going from there to how we got here.
For sure. So, I've gone through my journeys of first I stopped, dairy had always kind of growing up been an issue for me, so I cut that out. And then I cut out conventional meats, and I cut out meats that I couldn't, didn't know the story about, couldn't really recognize what was going on there. And then I cut meat out altogether, did like raw food, fruitarian kind of vegan stuff for like a long time, and felt some benefits from that, definitely, in a short term, as like a fast, and I was cleansing a lot of stuff was, coming up, but then over a certain period of time, I started to feel weak and started to, feel like I was deficient in something. There was like insatiable sweet cravings and, all types of just unhealthy habits started to develop. And so I started to bring fish back into the diet, and when I met Ife...
Pause. Before he met me, I was always into psychology. I really wasn't into food that much. I ate, I loved my parents cooking, my mom's cooking especially. She cooked like my grandmom. I had a little bit of a touch of my grandma's cooking. My grandmother was an amazing cook, but I didn't really think about it that much. And then when I got into psychology in college, I got really into the placebo effect and how we chose wellness or sickness based off of what we thought. And so I started thinking about that in relationship to everything, including food. So that's when I became vegetarian and started thinking that was the healthy way to be, and started meditating and doing all these things. But as I continued to learn more and more about our history and about healthy peoples and people who thought well in addition to lived well and ate well, I learned that indigenous peoples ate meat. And at that time, that's really all I understood. I didn't get all the nuances of the diet, but I got that. So fast forward to Lev and I meeting. We're both pretty vegetarian oriented, but we did eat animal foods. We just we didn't understand it. You know, we had different, I guess they were pretty similar reasons. We both were inspired by indigenous cultures.
Yeah, and I really never put it together. I knew that like if I hunted meat, I would want to eat it. But I wasn't hunting, and so I didn't see that as a realistic option. And so when we met, I kind of still had an ethos that veganism was like the, you know, kind of more of a higher way of eating. And that was like a goal of mine. But I felt almost like when I would eat fish or when I would eat meat, it was almost like that I was compromising myself, or I wasn't living up to the ideals I had. So it was kind of an internal battle. And you know, I would eat meat for spiritual occasions, for special occasions, and then I would eat fish regularly. And I kind of like, you know, it was not really, didn't have clarity on it. It was kind of like this internal conflict always going on.
And I knew that I needed to eat meat, but everybody I knew who cared about health were like left. They were more vegan oriented. So I always said I ate meat when I craved it, and otherwise I cooked vegan. And so that's how we met, and we did that. And then we got pregnant with Pele, and in the third trimester, the whole pregnancy I was eating meat but feeling like slightly uncomfortable with it because it wasn't a thing I was really sharing with Lev, especially red meat. It was something I was doing off to my own, and it just felt weird, and I didn't do it very much. And especially considering that like we came together around food. Like, by the way, also, you know, beyond meat, we came together around food. Like Lev would see me make these little, you know, vegan things online, and they were really pretty and really creative, and he would and I invited him to come over to have some. And that's one of our first like ways of exchanging, you know, life was around gardening and around food. And but yeah, so we're pregnant with Pele, and I realized deep in my soul, like he's telling me I need to change my diet. I am not doing right by him. And I go back to the research that I discovered, you know, 10 years prior, which was, you know, that I needed to eat meat, but I wanted to understand more, like about our indigenous food ways. And I started going deep. So I started to share that information online at that time. We've been on YouTube videos. I was sharing it with Lev, and he was starting to get it and understand it more. And we got deep in it. And you know, when Pele, right the week before Pele was born, I made my first bone broth. And then the day before he was born, I made my second. And Lev started getting into it too, because then I'm out of commission. So now he's making the bone broths and the nourishing foods. I mean, I don't know if he made a bone broth while I was out of commission. I know you made a lot of nourishing foods.
I definitely tried. Like, you know, anytime you initiated something, I would like take that and go hard with it, and I'd like be like, all right, I want to learn this. And it really like it hit home for me when I started to understand, like, oh, there are certain principles like nose to tail. You hear these things like, oh yeah, Native Americans, or they would, you know, when they would hunt, they would use all the animal, everything. You know, nothing would go to waste. And you know, and that's kind of like a indigenous practice worldwide. You know, a traditional practice. Like, why would you let stuff go to waste? And there's so many benefits to utilizing the different parts of the animal, you know, and it started to click, like, oh, like, you go to the store now and all you see is muscle meat, and it turns out muscle meat's like the least nutrient-dense part of the animal, you know, like
the filler to the other stuff.
Yeah, like the other stuff is like almost like the supplementation of the multivitamins that we now take through supplementation because our diets are deficient in those nutrients. And so, you know, eating organs, it was very foreign to me. I mean, I grew up and there was like chopped liver on the table. It wasn't home fresh. We didn't make it ourselves. It was just like some store-bought Jewish, you know, kosher food container that they bought at the store. Like they bought the hummus, you know, the hummus and the baba ganoush and the chopped liver, and it was just like on the table. I was like, I'm not touching that. So it wasn't like something I had a connection with. I didn't know where those chickens were coming from. There was all these other ingredients in there. And when I started to make it from scratch, I started to really like honor that cultural practice in my lineage. You know, like, oh wow, chopped liver is actually like a really amazing traditional food.
When it's done right.
When it's done right, when it's, you know, you hear like the schmaltz and the chicken fat and the They'll boil eggs and then put the liver with eggs and the chicken fat and the onions, and just kind of create this really decadent, delicious food that they could spread on the bread and so this kind of these indigenous practices of nose to tail, of eating certain foods raw, certain foods cooked, certain foods fermented, certain foods from the sea, certain foods from the land, understanding how to pair herbs and vegetables, meats, broth, like how these food combinations actually amplify the flavor in one another. How to properly prepare grains so that they're more easily digestible and more nutritionally bioavailable. Like these things are very old practices that we've just kind of tossed in the modern world.
Yeah.
And
so we're reclaiming them.
Yeah, and also I didn't mention this before, but my grandma on my father's side she was a gourmet chef, and then my oldest sister and another one of my sisters. Just like I have some really great exposure to chefs and kind of cooking from scratch mentality of just using fresh ingredients and really bright, flavors that have really influenced my journey as well. And so, kind of taking all these different elements that I come with, that Ife comes with, kind of as parents, we have really kind of honed all those things and brought them together, integrated them in a way that that we can live as optimally as possible to nourish ourselves, not only so we can show up for our children and for the world, fully, but also to nourish our children to be the best parents that we can be. And so we have gone so deep, traveling the country in a bus. Everywhere we go, we're searching for local food, connecting with farms, connecting with the wild food as much as we can, and put a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of education, a lot of study into this, so that now we feel like we're in a place we can share and help others kind of drink from the wellspring that we're drinking from in terms of the abundance of nature. And there's so much underappreciated in nourishing food, nourishing medicine that's coming from nature. We want to really bring that to as many people as possible so that we can connect to our ecosystem more and really feel connected to the nature around us, not just buying food that's coming from all over the world, but to really love our place, our home that we live on, and to take care of that home even better, because we know that if we don't take care of it, we're not getting that same nourishment. We're compromising we're the only species in the world that will compromise our very own home and ecosystem and habitat and place where we get our life force from. And so we're trying to reverse that and really, bring y'all into this journey that we're going through.
Yeah, and so this is a small part of a larger part of wellness-oriented lifestyle, of vitality-oriented lifestyle that we want to share through our interactive learning experiences. And we'll have another video. If you go to our About Us section, you'll see where you can, you'll see more about where we're coming from in relationship to wellness, and how we're applying it to lots of different facets of our life. But food is definitely a main one. We have figured it out, we feel like, how to get our children to eat it, how to eat it consistently, and how to share with others so that pretty much everyone we meet loves it and can't believe that it's filled with so much nutrition, so many organs, so much broth, so much, just dense, health-oriented foods. And so we want to share that with you. So we hope that you'll join us. Interactive Learning Experience is Elay, and we look forward to seeing you there. All right. Peace.